Peace and blessings and namaste to all light warriors, workers, and everything in between. It is I, Sophie, today, and I'm going to tell you I was struggling with this technology. Okay. And I was also struggling on how to broadcast this because it is a little heavy of a teaching. It is my hopes that those who do join in, even if you can't join in now, but if you go back and watch it, I'm going to reach the audience that I really, really need to reach. Okay. And with this being said, I'm really targeting those who are identifying, with being earth angels, or star seeds or sun seeds. And I'm specifically identifying with those who are needing assistance in helping to reconcile their paradoxes, clear out some karma, cleanse out some bloodlines. And there are beautiful ways that we can get this done. Okay. But I do know that we're going to have to remove a lot of the blockages, that we have concerning religion and things like that. And what I'm getting ready to teach you, it doesn't matter what you practice. Okay. It doesn't matter what you practice at all. It's going to be palatable to everyone. It's going to be applicable to everyone. So we're still going to get right into it. And I'm going to show you some of the things that I've been working with. Okay. And I decided to do this in a presentation so you can have a visual, because I know a lot of our people learn this way. Okay. So without further ado, let's do this. I'm going to shrink myself. I'm going to become a very small Sophie at this time. We're going to deal with soul reconciliation today. Okay. Soul reconciliation. And this is about a paradox. It's about reconciling past, present, and future so that you can revamp the way that you're thinking right now and change your possible outcomes. And the things that we are going to really hit on is going to be the process of soul evolution, quantum paradoxes or entanglements with timelines, the gatekeepers of religion, because every single religion, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, does have a gatekeeper, has a way out of it. Okay, has a way to identify with the higher principles of that religion so that you don't have to practice everything. But it is a narrow path. You do have to have the ability to see it. All right. So we're also going to deal with archetypes of the creator. When we're dealing with emanations, each religious system talks about this. Okay. And what I mean by emanations, I'm talking about spirit representing itself or duplicating itself over and over and over again in different types of archetypes. So once again, I'm talking about, if you can imagine any type of, what would we say? Any type of emotion, that could possibly, develop, there can be a representation of that emotion. Okay. And there could be an emanation designed to take care of something, to change something, to correct something, to teach something, all of those things. Okay. These are the emanations that come from the creator. We can look at them as elves. We can look at them as angels. We can look at them as guides. We can look at them as other gods, however you want to look at it. But these are the things that we're going to talk about. And the last will be the reconciliation of the souls. Okay. How we can use these archetypes to identify with our mindsets today, our consciousness today, things of that nature. Let's roll. All right. A little bit of esoteric for you. Okay. Now, what I'm getting ready to do is introduce you to moral, ethical, and higher laws. All right. Because these are phases of development that each consciousness must go through. All right. So if we start with the moral laws are concerning your evidence. These are the laws that you actually put in place for yourself. All right. These are what you live by, what you consider good and bad, what you consider right and wrong. These are your principles that are uniquely designed for you. Okay. So when it comes down to the moral laws, we're going to think individual. Okay. This is how we are processing who we are and who we are becoming. Now, when we're talking about ethical laws, this is a higher state of consciousness. Not only are we now responsible in our own morality, but how we are relating to our brothers, our sisters, our communities, our nations, our governments, all of that stuff. These are ethical laws. And then you have the higher laws, which are universal principles. Okay. And we go through these phases in steps. So I want you to focus on the middle picture. I want you to focus on this picture here. Okay. People look at this and they see the Kabbalah tree. All right. But what they don't really realize is the Kabbalah tree is just symbolic for emanations. Okay. And where we are, in this process, how we got here and what it's going to take to get back home. So if you see this sword, it's coming from the Ein Sof. This sword is coming from the creation itself. All right. And it's showing you the track of the soul when it descends. So every soul that is born or enters into Malkuth enters in truth and purity. All right. So this is the sword of truth that is showing that the soul is operating in this. This is when it goes through its descent. However, when you understand that once you get into the lower levels, the density changes. Okay. Everything about it, you go through this veil of forgetfulness. And this realm is governed by the serpent wisdom. Okay. Now, what I want to say about the serpent wisdom, whether or not you want to identify with the beings of Ubaid as actually being a serpent race, or if you want to identify it with Kundalini rising, okay, or your chakras igniting and becoming enlightened, either way will work. All right. There's no one set way to look at it. But what you do need to know is that that's what's necessary to navigate through these realms to get back home. So when we go through a descent, now we have to master our way back up. And that's where the intertwining serpent knowledge or serpent wisdom comes into place to get us right back. So we come down in the purity. Okay. We come down in the purity, and then we get the knowledge, and then we rise back up into the purity. So any realm that you are in typically has a gatekeeper, okay, or certain laws or governance that is assigned to that realm. Your job is to master it, understand it. Remember, we was told we have to be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. So this is a balance of power. This is a balance of power here. We have the cosmic truth, the highest level of truth coming from the creator of all right? And then we have the serpent wisdom that is in the realms of Malkuth that helps create and morph our reality. And that has a certain level of governance too. So we write it down and then we write it back up, okay? Now, if you go to this picture here, you will see 3 triads, okay? This is the soulish realm for your more. That happens in the astral triad here. This is where we are introduced our higher self. When we are in the realm of Malkuth, the material world, the earth world, remember, we came in here pure, but we went through forgetfulness, right? So everything around you now, everything that you're seeing is molding and shaping and formulating you to be this or to be that or to learn this or to learn that. All right. But when you get to the astral realms, okay, this is where you are starting to identify and meet with your actual higher self. Okay. Your higher self that brings out that ethics, morality, all of that stuff. And then when we start to master the ethical triads, how we are relating to our brothers and sisters, remember every religious system, if it was done correctly, would have gave you the tenets of the 3 principles that was only necessary. Okay. We're not talking about the writings when we're building a nation. All right. Or when we're trying to incorporate governance and this, that, and the third. We're not talking about that. We've already gotten past that. All right. So now we're only dealing with the moral and ethical codes used to governing ourselves and how we are relating to our brothers and sisters, humanity, other nations, that type of thing. Okay, so that's not what we're talking about. When we get here to the supernal triad, that's where you're meeting the archetypes. Now, what I mean by archetypes, I'm talking about the first emanations that's supposed to have come forth from the creator. Okay, we may have the archetype of the king. We may have the archetype of wisdom. We have the archetype of knowledge. You can give them any names that you want. It's not going to make a difference because I'm teaching cross-culturally. So if you want to say the archetypes is Father, Son, and Holy Ghost is feminine, fine. If you want to say that, it's Osiris, Isis, Horse, that's fine too. Okay, but understand that these are archetypes, and archetypes are really designed to teach us about ourselves, about human consciousness, whether or not we are evolving or devolving. Okay, and this happens according to how you process your reality, your mental status, how you were able to heal, cleanse some past things, how you're able to manifest, how you are representing your highest good on this planet. All right. So that's when you get to the God consciousness. This is the supernal triad. It's the top one. All right. So understand emanations. Okay. That's all these trees are representing is the soul's journey and different levels that it has to go through in order to get back to its purest state. And that happens without religion or with it. Even in your religions, it teaches you about higher laws, morality, and ethics. Okay. So when we're dealing with the Kabbalah tree, we're just doing a visualization of this path with each sphere representing an archetype, an angel, and emanation. Okay. So we go from severity, we have beauty, we have judgment, we have all of that. This is the path of the soul, the serpent, right? So, and then we get to the last one, which is over here on the fourth. And all that is really dealing with the four worlds. Sorry about that. And these worlds that I'm talking about typically take place in the consciousness. All right. This is how we are thinking and how we are moving upwards. Okay. So let's keep going. Now, if I take away all of the stories, surrounding different religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, the Bible, and this, that, and the third, if I took away all of the stories of the people, the prophets, the lives, what would I be left with? Okay, so when we deal in the principles of Hinduism, we're dealing with the 14 lokas, which is 14 states of consciousness. Okay, the lower ones we want to look at as elementary school. This is when you are reading your religious text and you're getting the do's and the do nots. Okay, why? Because this was supposed to be your introduction to the concept of the creator or God. Sorry. This is your introduction. So here is where we are learning how to become moral, how to relate to our people. We don't want to live in this area of consciousness where we have selfishness, malice, confusion, jealousy, anger, fear, lust. Those are lower states of consciousness. All right. That's elementary school. That's when you see people very, very devoted into whatever religious practice that they are. They have got to get everything down to a science. What shoe to put on first, what days to do this. We're training the mind at the time to learn to operate. All right. And that's what elementary school does. It's the laws. Okay. It's the do's and the don'ts. Now, again, I'm not talking about the laws on how to build a community or how to build a nation. I'm talking about the moral and ethical laws that was there. So once we graduate elementary school, these laws, this elementary school, these laws in these religious texts are designed to introduce you to the concept of righteousness, the concept of the creator, the concept of the higher self. Okay. So once we graduate that and we no longer have these things anymore, we realize we don't need to compete with anybody, right? We don't have to compete with anybody because each of us is wonderfully made as individuals. We all have something to bring to this world. So why compete? And in other times, we don't compete because we don't compare. We're in two different veins of thought. So I can't fight somebody in an area that I'm not even versed in or not supposed to be in. So once we get past that, we go into our higher self, okay? The high school, higher self-knowledge, ethical laws, manifesting, okay? And in this area of consciousness is where we learn, or we get our memories back. We start to get our memories back. We learn how to reason. We recognize our own soul, our willpower. We get direct recognition, okay? We talk directly to the creator. We get our downloads, okay? We are walking in our purpose and we understand what we're supposed to do. And then by the time you get to the higher levels of consciousness, we want to look at this as PhDs, This is all source. This is universal law. This is universal consciousness. This is God consciousness. So once you achieve those, the other two are no longer applicable to you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Once you achieve the highest law, you're not worried about what day to worship because that becomes a daily routine to you. You're not worried about who's stealing or killing or how to honor somebody because it's no longer, it's already embedded in you. You're now walking as a logos, as a divine source in God consciousness. So the laws that were meant for those who are young, that are starting to learn this, you have already bypassed that system. All right. You don't have to keep reading and rereading the things that you have already learned and read. It's now a part of you. So now from this moment on, it's about application and creativity. These are those with the PhDs, right? And they're going to talk on higher levels or different levels of consciousness because they've already passed the grades. All right. They could go back if they want to, to deal with our brothers and sisters who still might be learning. They can go back. It's not a big problem, but we don't function in it anymore because we've now realized that I and the Father are one. Heard that before? Yes, you have. Sure you have. Okay. Now, the reason why this teaching is important is because we have so much work to do and so much division. Okay, so much division as a collective, as a people, and not even just talking about race. But remember what I said in the earlier video. We're all cousins and brothers and sisters, and we all started off in elementary schools with the do's and don'ts. By the time we hit high school, we're starting to formulate the career that we want to go down. And so we pick schools according to the career paths that we want to go down. So if I'm in medical school, I'm not going to learn the same thing as somebody that, went to MIT. All right. Or if they're going into business administration, we're not going to go to the same schools. But if you put all of them together, you have a society that is functioning. Okay, you can't have a group of people that all think the exact same way and think you're going to evolve. Man does not evolve without opposition. So there always will have to be something that you're going to have to overcome. So now we branch off in these schools of thought. Some go into the religious track. Okay, what was religion originally designed to do? It was to teach the tenets of righteousness. Okay, like I said, take all the stories out, look at the principles. And if you can get the principles, you have increased your knowledge. Whether or not you like the book, whether or not you like the artist, the author of the book, whether or not you like anything, if you can get the principle of it, you have increased in your knowledge. All right. So some people like that track. They want to be more spiritual. Okay, they want to learn and study writings and ancient writings and antiquity, and they may master those schools of thoughts and they become priests, and they're constantly evolving as well. Then you have the metaphysics. Some of us are led down that track. Okay, the metaphysics is designed to teach the principles of things such as knowing, being. It is mainly philosophical. So here's where we get into the questions of why. Okay, the religion will tell you, what to do, how to do this, that, and the third, but if you're like me, you want to know why, especially if it doesn't make sense to you or you don't understand it. So that's when you get into the metaphysics portion of it. Okay, it's kind of philosophical. It's designed to answer those and to push you in divine knowing so that you're out of belief and now you're in knowing. Okay, then you have the occult. Now, the occult is designed to understand the supernatural, mystical, or magic. These are beings that have gifts, that was born into this realm with gift or having certain situations, occurrences, supernatural things that are going on, but you don't know how to identify it. You didn't get it from metaphysics. You didn't get it from religion. You were able to see how these things operated with your ancestors, but that was a different dispensation of time. So now that they're operating this way with you, what are you going to fall back on? The way that they identified with them or the way that they're identifying with you? So the occult people are designed to understand these things. So they might travel that school. Okay, you may find your healers and your magicians and your master manifestors. You know, you may find all of that in the occult, understanding exorcisms, things of that nature. All right. Then the last vein you have is science. Science is designed to organize knowledge in a quantifiable manner. Okay. Now, what's important here is science was actually designed to prove the existence of God. Okay. They were never supposed to be butting head. Science proves the creator, creator proves science. Where do you think you get this high intellect from? Okay. You know how things are going on. So you're always going to have these four veins. It happens since the existence, and it's going to continually be a thing. Okay, because we're not all the same. There's always going to be a critic. There's always going to be a person that's going to ask why. There's always going to be a person that's going to ask how. And there's always going to be a person that's going to say, I need to prove this. All right. So there's no point in all of us fighting with each other, arguing over which school is the best school. You're individual. You applied for that class. All right. So now you're taking that class. It's your job to master it. And once you master it, it's your job to then teach it to others who subscribe to that same school. But we always have to remember the tenets of righteousness, because every school of thought has a positive and a negative. All right. So this is where you backtrack to elementary school and you understand your morals and your ethics and your creator. So that when you go into these schools of thoughts, you don't lose yourself. You've already been taught the do's and don'ts. So we're not going to go into these schools of thoughts and start acting a donkey. All right? We're not going to do that. So we're going to be comfortable enough to partner with the creator and say, okay, I was created this way. I see this way. I have these dreams. I have these visions. Where do I need to go? And you will realize that a lot of these books or institutions have been closed, but have been open to you. All right. It has been given to you. If you weren't supposed to learn it, it wouldn't be here. This is not the enemy trying to confuse you. What this really is dealing with humanity and their evolution. All right. And it's always going to be a positive and a negative to anything. All right. Let's keep on going. Oh, I did that order already. I can hardly see. Where's my glasses? All right. So the chief principles of religion. Remember, I said, take everything else away. All right. Take everything else away. Take the nation building. Take the priesthood away. Take all of that. Could you live with these basic tenets? To love God, to honor your mother and your father, to not lie, to not steal, to not covet. Can you live with the basics of it? Because all of these religions are designed to help you cohabitate with the rest of humanity. We've heard it always say, even in the New Testament, we've heard it say, love your neighbor like you love yourself. But when we minimalize what that is saying, what we're trying to say is, okay, I'm only loving within my tribe, those who think like me, those who are walking like me. But what if your neighbor is not just your community? What if your neighbor is the neighboring nation? What if your neighbor is the neighboring continent? Do you understand? Can you still love them, identify with them without being exactly like them? Do you have it enough in you to say live and let live? Do you have enough in you to say, I can mind my business. I can still do business with you. I can still build with you, but I might not agree with everything that you do. Okay, those are the highest laws. Even in Hinduism, Krishna gives his law. And what does he say? Absence of pride, absence of deceit, non-injury, patience, uprightness. Uprightness is what? Righteousness, service to teacher, internal and external purity, steadfastness and self-control, all moral, all ethical, all states of consciousness. All right. Every religion that was presented have these small laws. These are the gatekeepers. You don't have to pay attention to the stories if you choose not to. Okay. Especially if you don't understand it, or if it's not helping you in your growth. But what you do need to pay attention to with all of these religions is what were the tenets of righteousness and how to relate to God, to your neighbor, and yourself. All right? So those are the chief principles of religion. And the reason why the New Testament also says that it's all summed up under love, loving your neighbor, and loving God, is because all the tenets of righteousness will automatically be understood. Okay? It wasn't that they were going against what was previously done. What they were teaching is once you have reached this level of unconditional love, you're naturally not going to do this. It's not necessary for you to cross the T's and dot the I's anymore. You're walking and talking God or goddess consciousness. All right, let's keep going there. All right, emanations or avatars. All right, that it was very hard for me to find an appropriate picture to represent this. Okay, so chances are you won't see this in my book. I'm going to go a little bit heavier in it, but I think I need to create it from scratch so it can really represent what I'm trying to say. But if we're talking about emanations and avatars, I got two photos up here that are both speaking about the same thing. Okay, now remember when I said the sephiras? Okay, these are emanations. All right, they can be looked at as angels, depending on your school of thought, but they're all representing an aspect of the creator, both positive and negative. Okay, the creator of all creates all. You can't represent the creator of all and have hate, because he doesn't even hate his own creation, even when they are disobedient. Do you understand? Our job in love is to look at them and say, this is my brother and sister in a fallen state. I'm not here to demonize them. I'm not here to point fingers at them. My brothers and sisters in a fallen state, I am here to help them ascend to higher levels. What I want you to pay attention to, especially you divine feminines, you will see the feminine nature in all three. Listen, look at this picture over here. All right. You see Soph and Ein Soph? All right, we're talking about a creatrix now. We're talking about a feminine energy that is a part of the creator. All right, we've seen that with Shiva and Shakti. Emanations will teach that. Even when we look at here, okay, you see different genders and all of that. All right, because in essence, it's all energy. And when we go to the higher levels, it's androgyny. But when we're coming here, you will see that there's a father and a mother that is a part of this supernal triad. So we have both masculine and feminine principles. But where does she fall? There she go. Same story talked about in Hindu. Same story talked about in Gnosticism with the Pistis Sophia. Same story talking about in the descent of Inanna. On all three of these stories, cross-culturally, you will understand the fall of the feminine energy. Okay? Her descent down. Why? Let's talk about the Bodhisattva. If you have never heard of the Bodhisattva, typically that is a feminine energy, kind of like Kuan Yin. I like to talk about Kuan Yin all the time because of her love and her mercy and how she pushed away material things, how she pushed away and prolonged ascension so that she could stay with mankind, her brothers and sisters, and help them to ascend, and then she will go last. This is certain beings come to this realm every single eon to do exactly that. Okay, so we see her here in the earth realm. We see her here in the supernal triad is one of the chief deities, and we also see her here in 0 point. All right, so we do not have an issue with the divine feminine, and if you do, sorry, we're here to stay right now. Okay, we had to come here. I mean, I love you guys, you know, for all of the hard work and the study and the knowledge that you're doing, but you don't have the intuition like we do. So some of us had to come through here and reshape the way that we're thinking and doing things. I have to give you another perspective so that you can balance yourselves. All right. And a lot of us are here doing that. That's just that's just a symbol of what I was trying to show you. But that's what emanation is. Think about it. If we have 0 point and everything comes from a 0 point, the only way that it can experience itself is to duplicate itself. I'll get into a little deeper later on. So archetypes, angels, Elohim, demons, jinn, whatever you want to call them, they all have 1 point of reference. You have to keep going up, all right? And they're all serving a purpose to balance. I know that's a tough pill to swallow to some people, but they all serve a purpose. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so I did this because of familiar archetypes that many of us are identifying with, or have come across at some time. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will hit out something and some of them. And if you want, I will put this PowerPoint presentation on my website so you can go and review it, okay, if I'm moving too fast for you. But here are the archetypes. You have divine feminine archetype, you have the savior archetype, you have Elohim archetype, you have prophet archetype, you have teachers, master teachers, those archetypes. You have the angelic, and you have creator beings. Now people get frustrated, or they're not understanding when I say creator, or when I say creators. All right. When we were made in the image of the creator, we were given the ability to also create. Don't believe me? Look at your scientists now. AI, artificial intelligence. These things have been going on for eons and eons and eons. We are creator beings. Okay. Some of us, not all of us, some of us are other archetypes. But say, for instance, your archetype, we already went through Guanyin, but say your archetype might be Inanna or Lilith. Okay. Now, what are you going to identify with that? And how would you reconcile it today? Well, say Inanna. Well, we know Inanna or Ishtar. Okay. And in some schools of thought, Hathor as well. All right. I'm not going to do that. But we knew that this was a goddess of love and war. All right. And when I say war, the male Elohim feared her fierceness, her power was unmatched. Okay. Now you can look, reading her stories about how everything she went through, and you can try to identify with that archetype. Is that me? Am I combative all the time? Am I ready to jump down somebody's throat when they're saying something wrong? Do I want to fight all the time? Well, what happened in those cases? And what's happening now in my cases? All right. This is how you start to identify with certain behaviors. Learn from the past, learn from your own past, and then reconcile it, change your whole school of thought to bring a better future. The Lilith archetype was always associated with rebellion or nonconformity. What did you do in this lifetime? Now, in the case with Lilith, whether you think that she was agreeable or disagreeable, I personally don't see her as a disagreeable, but that's a completely different story, and we'll talk about it another time. But there are some teachings that do say that, that she was a disagreeable, or that she left a disagreeable and she was just rebellious. Now, when you enter into this realm, that story, those Eve stories, those Lilith stories, those Jezebel stories, did it create a blockage in you that made you afraid to stand in your power and wear your crown because you thought you were going to be disobedient? Do you understand what I'm saying now? Okay. Some things follow with us psychologically. You're being taught this way. So now you're going to minimize yourself. You want to stay in the background. You want to be a good little wife. You're not a good wife if you don't elevate your husband. You must stand in your power. Yeah, he'll probably get mad at you, but he'll thank you a little bit afterwards because you're going to constantly crown him. Manifestation starts in the womb. Remember that, divine feminines. All right. We have a job to do. It's not to be a yes man. Okay. It's to push him. It's to push him. We have to face him. They're our counterparts, right? So we have to do that. Now, if he's sitting around on a project that he's been working on for 3 years and they get past the first chapter, if you're not in there going, bae, when are we going to get this done? That's what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, so, but if you have those archetypes that give you negative, that comes across as negative, you might subconsciously carry that into where you are now and minimize yourself. Okay, you also have like a Tahuti type of archetype, somebody that likes to study minds, hearts, human consciousness. You might just be a scholar. You might not even want to deal with the spookism. You might not even care, about, spirits in the spiritual realm. You might only like arts and language, math. Okay, if you are that type of archetype, you need to move forward in that. Okay, then you need to actually study what those archetypes did in the past. Did it assist them, or did they have to learn a lesson from it? You bring that to your current reality and you say, I'm not going to do what they did, I'm going to do this. Or, okay, if it does work for you, you say, oh my God, I like the way that they did that. Now let me try to find a way to improve it. Okay. You have the savior archetypes. These are people who have come and they self-sacrifice, just like the bodhisattva. Okay. And you have those in other, religions, the Buddhas and Krishna and even Moses. They save a people. Okay. They are the leaders. They will get you out of something. The savior archetypes, you could be walking as one of those. But even if you are walking as one of those, just like Inanna was one, but she became a crucified savioress, the descent of Inanna being crucified underground for 3 days and 3 nights. Does the story sound familiar? Shh, we won't tell anybody. We won't tell anybody, but the information is already out there. It's already out there because it's time to get the right knowledge. It's time for you to understand where these books, have been corrupted. Why was the divine feminine so hidden like that? Okay, but let's keep it going. If you're a savior archetype, then typically you're one that will be willing to self-sacrifice. You are willing to put the greater good of your family, community, or even nation before yourself. Make sure that when you're doing that and you're understanding that you are that archetype, that you're not stifling your own growth. So you have to learn from what they did and try to make it better in this reality. Okay, master teachers, swamis. Then you have, okay, some of you, I know nobody's going to admit this. I know nobody's going to admit this, but there are Lucifer archetypes too. All right, now, when I'm talking about Lucifer archetypes, I'm not talking about grand evil. I'm not talking about a being that's like, I hate humanity and everything that exists in it. I'm talking about self-willed and enlightened one, but does not necessarily agree with the tenets of the creator or want to replace it, a usurper. Okay, some of you have that as well. You don't like hierarchy. You want to usurp it. You think you're better than everybody, or this, that, and the third. Now, if that happens, you have to go back. You have to look at it. You have to see the trouble that it went to. You have to find it in your own life. Were you in school challenging teachers? Were you in your office challenging the boss? Whatever it is, pay attention to these archetypes. Reconcile, resonate with them. See things through their eyes. You also could be an Enoch archetype. Now, when we're talking about, Enoch, Melchizedek, things of that nature, these are those that sit in the balance. They're intermediaries between the creator and the Elohim. So Enoch archetypes naturally pray for angels, naturally pray for humanity, and naturally pray for purification of light. They stand in the gap. You might be one of these where you have to stand in the gap for something. You're called to do it. You don't even understand why you're around agreeables and disagreeables. You've been taught to fear them. But if that archetype, if that is your call, you're not going to fear anything like that. You're not, because you know that, number one, everything comes from the creator. Number two, you are part of that creation. Number three, nothing is going to harm you. Okay, so now if you're that praying person that, okay, I need to reconcile my past. I need to reconcile the past of my family. I need to break some generational curses. I have to go back in time. I have to see what they did. And I have to correct it in the now. And when I correct it in the now, I've just cleansed a whole bloodline. I know this can get heavy for some of you. All right. I promise I'm going to break this down a little bit better in a book. Okay. But this is the strong ones. Okay. These are the ones that are going to say that, okay, this is family and we messed up. What can I do to assist this? What can I do to help purify that light? What can I do to help the person ascend, see their errors? In the same vein, you have to remember not to lose yourself. Okay, so you want to pay attention to the archetypes that you represent. You want to see how those archetypes are playing in your now, okay, or mirroring your current states of reality or something that you are going through. And when you see how they handled it, whether good or bad, you can now function on how you will handle something that mirrors that, whether good or bad. Okay. And then you wipe that out, you move forward. I'm sorry. I'm just going to have to keep going. I want y'all to watch this with me. I want y'all to pay attention to this. If you can hear it. This is important. She's speaking into the universe.
Lift you, rise. We stand behind you, Ray. The heart of a Jedi lies her straight. Rise, rise. Ray, the Force will be with you, always. Back on! This is our last chance. We gotta hit those cannons now! You are nothing. A scavenger girl is no match for the power it takes. I have all the Sith. And I... Follow the Jedi.
Okay, we don't care about that part. All right, so check it out. Everybody knows I'm a Star Wars fan. Okay, that's because I understand that in this realm of existence, truth has to be presented to you. Okay, it's the way that they present the truth that is oftentimes shrouded and enclosed. But you always have to make a free will choice to either give over your power or keep it. So a lot of times they hide esoteric knowledge and truth in movies. You ever want to figure out what's really going on in your world? Pay attention to Hollywood, because those beings there know that they have short time, and they have to bring out the information. What you just witnessed is what any and all of us can do. Once we have ascended to a higher state of consciousness, we become a part of the all. Your ancestry lives in your DNA. You heard her cry out, to the creator, help me, help me, help me. Then you heard all the Jedis that previously lived. Some of them were good, some of them was bad. All right, because you heard Anakin speaking too, but he had to learn from his mistakes. Remember, Anakin was the one that turned into Darth Vader, but he corrected it, and then he became another hero again. All right, so you see her dying. She's fighting against a force that is way stronger than her, way older than her, but she was able to tap into her genetic code, tap into it. Her angels, her guides, her spirit team gave gifts, empowered her, and she was able to stand. You can do the exact same thing. All right, I wanted you to see this. I wanted you to see this. We're talking about archetypes. We're talking about ancestry. We're talking about angels. We're talking about Elohim, all in the past, rooting for you. Why? Because many of them made mistakes. Okay, that's why you heard Anakin talking. You've heard poor judgment. Yoda came through, had poor judgment with the balance of the Force. Jedi thinking they're better than Sith, Sith thinking they're better than Jedi. And in reality, when you get to the nitty gritty of it, you figure out that both are needed to balance the universe. But because they didn't get that, a lot of mistakes was made. So now our ancestors are looking to us, the chosen ones, to come and help rectify this, especially if they've done everything wrong and set in motion a chain of events that is counteractive to our spiritual growth. All right. So this is where we can draw our power and our strength. This is where your angels got your back. This is when they're saying to you, you can fight this. You can correct this. You can do this. Have faith. Let's keep going. Okay. Wait a minute. Did I skip something? Okay, I didn't. I'll be messing this up sometimes. All right, timeline reconciliations. Okay, we have the things in the ancient past. The past. These are the books that we're reading about our ancestors. What they went through, how they had to survive, etc., etc. So the ancient past is associated with the state of recognizing similarities of thought, ideologies, patterns, and choices with perceived outcomes. So the ancient past, we can get how they thought, what their ideology was, but we also can see what happened, what came about from it. All right. Then we have our recent past. That's what's going on in our realms right now. We are identifying patterns of thought, ideologies, and choices made in this lifetime, and it's in fact on our current reality. Are we repeating the same patterns? Okay. Are we stuck in a loop? Are the things that we may have done in the ancient past manifesting in the recent past? And did we deal with it the exact same way? Then you have the present. When we deal with the present, we are recognizing repeated patterns in our current reality based off of ancient and past choices. So you can have an L. Okay. That was, I don't know, let's say a whore. Let's say kings, had queens, had concubines, had, all of those things, priestesses, all of that, mighty, mighty L has all of these women, right? You didn't get a chance to sin because you messed up. Now you're repeating in this timeline and you can't figure out why you can't be loyal to one woman. Why you're having a hard time attaching yourself to a woman. Do you understand the tenets of love? Did you express that in the ancient past? Did you express that in your recent past? And is it affecting your present situation right now? You have to think to yourself, why isn't a woman enough for me? Is it greed? What is it? Then you have to go. And when you look at these ancient past stories, see how it worked out for them. When you go to your recent past, see how it worked out for you. And then when you get to the present, now you got to do something about this, okay? If not, another generation comes and repeats it. Another generation, it keeps perpetuating. We don't grow, All right. But when you get to the point in your life where you're reconciling what happened in ancient past with what happening in your recent past, and you're starting to see the patterns reemerge over and over again, you have to decide to do something different, especially if it's an unfavorable outcome for every time that you've done that. Okay. Now we're going to get to the future. What is the future? Now, this is a state of reconciliation of past mistakes to ensure a healthier life, thought, and ideology for the betterment of future generations. We want to bury the dead now. Okay. We don't want to keep repeating cycles. We want to bury the dead. You're now sitting in your meditation. You're figuring out that there's a reoccurring pattern that keeps going on in your life. Whether it is the people that you are attracting as mates, okay? Whether it is career choices, whether it is friend group, whether your finances are constantly up and down and up and down, whatever it is, you're realizing that you have a repeated trend that's going on. It is your job to identify with that trend. You have to go back now. Okay. Now, if you cannot find an archetype, which I'm telling you, there's an archetype for everything that we go through. It sure is. Why? There's nothing new under the sun. Not in the earth realm. Not in the material realm. The material realm is a creatrix. It's earth school. Okay. So nothing new happens under the sun. It all gets repeated. There's a cap there. The only time you get new revelation, the only time you get new ideas is when you get past the matrix. Everything that we are saying, somebody else said. All right. You can find schools of thoughts everywhere repeating the same logo over and over again. And each person that gets the download thinks it's brand new. But the reality is there is nothing new under the sun when you're trapped in the material world. So in order to get past the material realms, in order to get that new revelation, in order to get to higher states in consciousness, you have to reconcile with your past. You have to figure out where you are repeating the same things, and you got to break free. Okay. There's gatekeepers in every religion. Remember, I told you that. All right. You will find it. If you're under a religion, you will find it. I will tell you this. I'm going to share this with you. I know everybody don't agree the same way. I never had a problem when I was a Christian. Okay. The problem that I had was I was thinking of higher level things and they couldn't be answered. Certain things did not make sense, but I still was able to identify the gatekeeper. He who the Son has set free is free indeed. There was the keys to the kingdom right there in front of you all along. Thus, who the Son has set free is free indeed. We're talking about sovereign divinity now. You get to a state of consciousness while you're reading these religious books where you're understanding the principles behind it, not duplicating it, okay? But you're understanding the principles behind it, the morals, the ethics, what is the righteousness, what's designed for you to do. And then before you know it, you got the keys. You're sovereign. You don't have to practice that. You're walking logos, all right? Each religion has that. You got to be studious to go through the lies, okay? The misinterpretations, the stories that might be, just designed as a marker or a principle to teach you something. But if you get the core principle out of any of these religions on here, before you know it, you won't have to have it. But you got to be wise with that, babies. All right. Then we have the last one, convergence. Now, this is when we merge. Okay. This is when we're merging past, present, and future onto a single realm of thought. Past can prove present, but present can alter consciousness thoughts from the past. Now, you're going to ask me, how do you do that? I'm going to tell you how I did it. I found my archetype. I knew exactly when I was reading this. I said, oh my God, she thinks like me. She does the same. And the funny part about it is when I was reading about my archetype, I was literally mirroring it in this timeline. Think Cloud Atlas. Cloud Atlas. Okay. So the things that was going on back then, I was watching it play out in my current reality under different circumstances, but it was the same issue. So I had to go back, Figure out what happened then. Why was I this way? Okay, now I'm going to go to my recent past. Why did I keep making these mistakes? I'm connecting them now. I'm seeing what worked, what didn't, and now I'm changing that thought. And now that I changed that thought, I am no longer identifying with a negative divine feminine or it's a negativity. I am purging it, I'm transmuting it, and now I'm bringing it forward to you, and I'm saying all is well. Do you understand? All is well. You are to operate exactly the way you were designed to operate as a connector. All right? We allowed for some of these teachings to go out for a very long time. I'm not saying that they were all wrong. I'm saying that they were from a masculine perspective. Who's going to teach you, divine feminine? You know you're not designed to think like them. You're thinking to balance them. Yes? Okay? But you know, just like I know, that we've read things that they have taught us and was like, this doesn't make sense to me. I don't think this is what this means. And when you say that, you're shut down, aren't you? Not in this day and age. Okay? We don't remove our crowns. Don't get off your throne. People have to elevate to where you are. You're not going backwards. You've already reconciled. So now you have to convert. And you're going to build a new story. No, Lilith wasn't rebellious. No, Lilith wasn't, confrontational. What ended up happening was, from a different school of thought, she was actually of higher consciousness, and they were trying to control her. She did not feel that she had to be controlled or subservient to a being that was beneath her. Now, find out it today. How has that affected you? Okay? Are you in constant rebellion? I'm not submitting. I'm not serving. I'm not doing anything. Or have you balanced this equation to know when it's time to be quiet, when it's time to speak, when it's time to stand in your masculine principle, and when it's time to be inherently feminine? Okay? You balance these things out. You merge it, and it changes the way that you think in the now. All right? I'm going to keep going. I'm sorry, if you're talking to me in the comments, I can't see it right now. Okay, I did put a link up there, if you wanted to join in or ask questions, but I can't see the comments right now because I'm only dealing with one laptop and I got 3 screens going on, and one of them is covering the comments. But after I get past these 2 last slides, I will go in and look at them. Okay, so apologies, guys, and welcome. Thank you for joining me. Okay, trends and patterns. This is mock, right? So say you're dealing in areas of finances, love, and spiritual growth, right? Say these are the years down here. I don't know how old everybody is. I just tried to cover everybody, okay? So I did 1960, 1970, 1980, 99, 90, 2020, 2023. Now, when you go and reflect back on your life, do you see trends that look like this? And if you do, what area is it in? Are you struggling with maintaining financial security? One year, you're all the way up here. Next year, you're struggling. Next decade, you're back on top. Are you dealing with those type of ebbs and flows in your life? If that is the case, you need to figure out what decisions you were making and what career path you were choosing that may have not been for your highest good. Same thing with love, okay, and relationships. Are you able to build with your mate, okay, or is it stagnant energy? If every time that you build something, is it taken away from you? Are you happy? Is it a time that you were and then you're not, and then you are and then you're not, and are they with the same person or are they with different people? Find out about your nature and what you're attracted to, what your love language is. The whole thing about understanding the trends and the patterns of your life is to heal from it, number one. And number two, to stop making the same mistakes over and over and over again, you're not going to evolve. Do you understand? If you're still making the same mistakes over and over and over again, you're not leaving room for new mistakes. And trust me, there are plenty of new mistakes out there to make because I'm making them. There's plenty of new mistakes. We don't want to keep doing those patterns, right? So you have to look at the patterns of your life. When you were on top, when were you at your highest point? When were you at your lowest point? When were you at your highest levels of understanding? When were you at your low? When was your creativity completely blocked? When did you stop manifesting? All of those things are important on your journey. It's going to help you reconcile these things, and it's going to reshape the way that you think in the now. Time is fluid. It's linear in the earth realm, but in higher states, it don't exist. So when you are correcting things now, you're also correcting conscious thoughts from the past. In other words, you're doing your family a solid, and you're doing yourself a solid. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's for those of you who are identifying with being, earthbound. Because we are, there are, angels on earth. There is, some of them have come from higher states down to help. Some of them came from the lower realms up. There are no hells anymore. Those were completely done away with. So where did these energies go? If they could not ascend, where do you think they are? Just think about that for a minute, okay? I believe that concludes my presentation for today. Oh, she's messing up a little bit. All right, I'm going to go into these comments real quick and see what I've been missing this entire time. Oh boy. Okay, let me go in. Hi, family. Cool fans, peace be with you all. There we go. Young Hero. I thought I got rid of this. Young Hero, thank you. Thank you for joining in. Marabontis, thank you for joining in. Spence, thank you, Woman. Jamia, Elijah, Miss Lebra, and okay, that makes sense. Our guardian angels do want us to connect back to the Creator, and they are of our bloodline. You're absolutely right. We're not called to be afraid of these things. Okay? None of this should be a fear to you. You already know who you are. And if you operate God and Goddess energy, why are you fearing a being that's lesser than you? Some people in our ancient past and in our bloodline, they do need our help. They do. And so when we do this, when we intercede on their behalf, okay, when we're praying, when we help them, when we're teaching, when we're learning things that they got wrong, you don't think this is the law of correspondence? They teaching you, but you're teaching them too. And you're rectifying these things. Y'all got to get this down pat and stop running away from stuff. Okay? I understand if you're not called to this school, yeah, then I'm going to say run away from it. Because if you're not called to the school of thought, chances are you mess it up. Okay? That's the reality of it. But if you are called to this, you're not supposed to be walking in fear. You're supposed to be walking in love, righteousness, and sound mind. Nothing should be bothering you. But you know that you have a charge. You know that you have a mission here. You created it. Most of us get into a lot of trouble right now because of sin, but we don't all consider sin the same thing. It's us in our contracts with the Creator. We're going to govern ourselves. So in other words, if you have subscribed to a certain tenet of religion, do's and don'ts, that's that and the third, and that becomes your standard, trust and believe that's what you're going to be judged by. So be careful what you're eating. Do you understand? Okay? Now, I know it's been over an hour. Is there any questions? Hi. Okay, excellent. Sis, please add the video and PowerPoint to your page. I got you. I'm going to put that up there. Thank you so much, Ty. I love my Ty. He's so sweet. And Mystic Storm Beauty, peace. Nice to see you. Are there any questions? Because if there's not, I'm going to wrap it up. 5, 4, 3, 2. All right. Thank you all for joining in. I am Sophie, and I love you all. Have a good evening.